What's going on, people, and welcome to a brand new episode of Too Many Games and Not Enough Time, where I get to sit down with incredible creatives within the gaming industry and talk to them about what they are playing right now. Now, I can't believe it. We are finally in 2021. 2020 is a thing of the past, but we are in another lockdown. This is lockdown 3. My headpiece is looking atrocious. I miss my barber. Now, one of the great things that's happened this year is we are now on your podcast services. So you might be listening to us on Spotify, on Google Play, even on your iPhone. So if you are, make sure you give us a review and come over to the YouTube and give us a thumbs up and join the golden gang. Now, on today's episode, I have a really important individual in my life. I've known him longer than he's known himself. He is a master. You get me? The man there have graduated from Staffordshire University. He is making environments for games, fam. He was part of GGR from the beginning, and he has been an assistant producer throughout the journey. But more important than all of those things, he is my brother. And not just, yo, that's my brother, that's my actual brother. Mini Midas, welcome to Too Many Games and Not Enough Time.
Wagwan.
How you doing today, man?
I'm alright. Just another lockdown and tier 5 at that.
It's a madness. Now, usually when people come on the show, they get super impressed by my intros, but you're just used to me because, like I said, like, you're actually my brother. We're not the same person as some people think. I'm an old fart. He's a young you. But yeah, we are brothers, and one thing that's been synonymous in both of our life is gaming. Like, even before I worked in video games, like, I've always been a big gamer, and obviously you being my younger brother, like, a lot of my gaming experience has kind of influenced your life. But you've been an Xbox man from day dot. Always been an Xbox man. What is it about the Xbox and the Xbox ecosystem? Why have you been such a big fan?
To be honest, I think it's more just what was on it, as well as what I had access to. So one big staple for me that's always reason why I've always been on Xbox is Halo. Because Halo for me is more than just a game. It's got sentimental value because it was a game that I sat there and went through the whole series playing with brother, or you-ish, but it was more dad and sister. So just going through each title, completing every game with them except for 5, because yeah. But yeah, it's just, I think it's got sentimental value, and being on there, I've always just had some people there. But the divide definitely started to get worse through the generations.
And it's been a divide because I was always the PlayStation guy. I always owned a PlayStation. Always had a Nintendo, like, you knew. And so when you grew up watching me play Nintendo consoles, and then grew up watching me play PlayStation consoles. And I've always been like, fam, get a PlayStation. And you've stayed loyal to Xbox. And we are in 2021 in a generation that you own a PlayStation 5. I also own one, but I also own an Xbox Series S. What has happened to the world where I own an Xbox console and you own a PlayStation console?
I know, you know, it's just times change, isn't it? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely getting one, but how Xbox are kind of going around, or Microsoft are going about things at the moment, it made sense for me to go PlayStation.
Yeah, definitely. Now, it makes sense because, like I'm always telling you, there's so much games. And because you didn't have a PlayStation 4 and you stayed loyal to Xbox, you miss so many games. So what games have you been playing since you've got your PlayStation 5? Like, what games from Sony staple have you really been sinking your teeth into and spending your time with?
To be fair, some of them were slightly before Christmas and some were when I got them on Christmas. So one big one, Ghost of Tsushima. Absolutely love that game. It's a beautiful masterpiece. Got Final Fantasy VII Remake, finished that. It's a beautiful game. played Detroit Become Human on my stream. Playing God of War at the moment as well. Also going through the Mafia series, and yeah, there's a few other ones I've got lined up, but I just haven't got around to playing them because it's quite a few games at
So,
that point.
so you've really taken to Ghost of Tsushima in a way that I wasn't even expecting. Like, I was expecting you to fall in love with Final Fantasy because you grew up with me being in such a Final Fantasy guy, and you know Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Final Fantasy 7 is one of the most important games to me. What is it about Ghost that's really captured you?
I think it's just the subtle details of how immersive it feels. Like when you're in there, you can go around, people will just interact with you that have nothing to do with the story, but they will have their own little stories. And then even the combat is quite swift. And something that I really enjoy is there's very minimal UI. So as you're going through the world, you have to use the world as indicators of what to go to, what to climb, and those sort of things. And even the fact of when I want to go somewhere, I can put it on the map to look up on the map, but there's no mini map. So the only way I'm going to know where to go is by swiping up, and I'm using the wind to direct myself. Like that within itself, just little mechanics like that really add to immersion for me. Because it's not like I'm constantly looking back and forth with maps. Because if you think of it in a lot of games, when you've got an objective, if there's nothing physically in front of you to show you where to go, you're constantly looking back and forth with the map, and you lose some immersion of the game, in my opinion, because you're taking your view off the screen of what is actually in front of you, and a lot of the time you spend looking at a mini map rather than a game.
Yeah, 100%. Like, so many games struggle with when the character's traveling to make the character look at the world and not just look at the map. It's like when you're anything from like driving in GTA to like riding on The Witcher, the amount of people who are traveling from one point to another and they're not even taking in the world, they're literally just focusing on that map. So that was incredible. So like I said, you graduated as your master's, first one out of us to get your master's. Congratulations. How has that changed your experience playing games? Because like you just mentioned some incredible titles. So like Final Fantasy 7 Remake was my game of the year last year. Like that game, the way it worked with music was incredible. And like God of War is a masterpiece for PlayStation 4. Like I think it's not my favorite, but I think it's one of the best PlayStation 4 games. The way it just seamlessly runs from the beginning to the end. How has learning to make games change your experience of playing games?
To be fair, the difference started when I was in college rather than now. Because what happens is I think as time gone on, I've understood them a bit more. But when I look at things, I'll look at the game and start analyzing it in other ways. So for instance, one thing that definitely occurs is when you're creating something, when you go into a game, you look at that a lot more. So for instance, I'm learning foliage or I'm doing foliage at one point. If I'm in a game and there's foliage, I'm generally just looking at the foliage to think of how they did it and reconstruct it in my mind to be like, oh, cool, this would work, and this sort of thing to apply it in my own work, as well as just taking in the sceneries, looking at how nice the sceneries look, as well as trying to see the repetitive patterns of, what did they use? Did they use this? Did they use that? As well as sometimes just trying to see if you can slightly break the game. That is something I'll definitely say at times you look around to see, cool, what does it look like this way? What does it look that way? But one, I think, downside to all of that is the fact that sometimes you do notice things and you're like, like you might notice how something is, or if there's a seam, or if there's a stretched texture, or something that you might not notice if you're just casually strolling through, but when you look for it, you do find them in these modern games.
So when we like I said, I'll keep on referring to you because you're actually my brother, so we grew up together. When we grew up, like you and our sister Navina would come and literally watch me play a whole game, and my whole gaming has always kind of been story games. So you lot would sit down with me and go through a whole story games, and we still keep up to tradition today, like we do it with The Evil Within, where we will sit down and go through the game and stuff to get together. So you kind of know my gaming taste, so you know what games I played. But what game it from the me being new to the Xbox ecosystem and now having the Xbox Series S and having Games Pass, what game from the Xbox ecosystem would you recommend that I should play?
To be honest, I think Gears is a good staple to start on. Because from what I know you like in terms of stories and how it is, Gears does have a good story to it, and there's quite a few to get through. As well as stuff like how the camera angle is and how the protagonists work with each other and the relationships that are there. I think that would be a good one for you. Don't wrong. I'd recommend Halo. Don't wrong, but for you personally, I think Gears would click more for you than Halo would, because for instance, like cool, you play Call of Duty, but Call of Duty is not your game, and to me, that's what it would kind of be for you if you played Halo. Like, Halo is something that is fun, but it's still a shooter at the end of the day. Whereas Gears, even though it's a shooter, it's more of a third person camera angle, and how it works. I think you'd enjoy it more with the story side of elements, and yeah, I think that one, to be fair.
Yeah, Gears has always been something that I've been gassed on. And as soon as I got the Series S, that was the first game that I started to jump off. So when I finish, backlogs are crazy, as you know. Well, when I jump back on the Xbox, yeah, Gears is definitely the one. So I started on Gears 5. I might actually go back and do Gears 4 because I found out like you do them in trilogies. So I might do 4, 5, and then obviously when 6 comes out, 6. All right. Gamers, always gassing, big backlogs, so much games out there, not enough time to play it. You're locked down. You can't get a trim, fam, even though your headpiece doesn't look as bad as mine. What from your backlog would you like to go and play? Like, what's a game that always interests you and it's always been like, bro, this is something I really, really want to get into, but you just haven't had the time? And after you've gone through all these PlayStation classics, what's something that you really want to like dip your toe into?
One thing I've been debating on back and forth is redoing Final Fantasy 15. I won't lie. I think through playing 7 Remake, it's got me back in the mood for playing like a long Final Fantasy game. But the only downside is I've still got a bunch of other games to still play. And other than that, purely on my Xbox, that I do currently still have is I want to finish the Yakuza series that I do currently have. Like I did grow up playing Shenmue, and those were something I really did enjoy playing. And through discovering Yakuza, I've really been enjoying it. I did play 0 and I played 1. I'm currently on the second one, but I stopped playing it for a bit, and I kind of want to get back into that because I've recently discovered that they're all on PlayStation. So and apparently Game Pass is getting 3, 4, and 5, and 6, I think. So with that coming, it means I've got a bit more incentive to go, you know what, let me play through that, so when it comes out I've got the time to do that.
So we're both big RPG guys, even though you don't play just RPGs, you play a lot of games, but we both love RPGs, and Final Fantasy is one of our big staples. Final Fantasy 15 for me is like so overlooked. Like people act like it's a dead game, and it's not a dead game. Like, yes, it had a lot of issues, but it is a very, very good title, and the DLCs are incredible, and they really open up the world. And yes, Square could have made a better game, but I don't think it's half as bad as people act like. And I'm really kind of I really like Noctis as a pro tag, and I feel like Final Fantasy has like some hit and misses with pro tags. Like Cloud is amazing, Tidus is like one of our favorites, Zidane's dope, and yeah, I think Noctis is up there as well with one of the great pro tags. So I've never played any of the Yakuza series. The only thing I've played from it is Judgment, which is like the spin-off, which is pretty cool because the fighting is like almost like a fighting game kind of mechanics, but in that kind of 3D environment. It kind of reminds me of the old school Tekken games that had like the fighting things in it. But one thing is, you know me, like it's the same with anime. I don't like dub. I like to, if I'm playing a game, I want to hear it in English. I ain't got no time to be reading it. I'm really interested in checking out the latest new Yakuza. I think it's 6 or 7. I can't remember what it is. Like a Dragon. But that's actually going to be turn-based, which is really interesting how they're going to kind of change that game into like a turn-based game, because it was so kind of action and fighting orientated. I want to really see how they can do it. All right, before you leave me, I could chat to you all day. We talk about games all of the time. You are a Twitch affiliate. Congratulations. You became an affiliate before a lot of people. And it even surprised me because the way your personality is and how I know you, I'm surprised that you put yourself out there to be in front of the camera like that and enjoy it so much. So I've got 2 questions for you. The first question is, what's your favorite game to play on Twitch? And then secondly, just really quickly, what is it about being a streamer that you enjoy?
I would say my favorite game that I've played on stream is probably Valorant, to be fair. As much as it stresses me out and makes my blood boil, because competitive shooters, especially ones like that, there's a very steep learning curve, because it's
Super
one of
steep.
those, because it's
Super
not like
steep.
you can just play something like Call of Duty and jump on that and be good,
Yeah, of course.
because it's
Of course.
entirely different. Like the realism.
It's basically CS:GO.
Yeah.
So it's CS:GO.
With that being the case, that's really fun, but it's stress. And I think my favorite thing about being a streamer, to be fair, I think it's just the interaction. And all the people that I've been able to meet in like-minded people that enjoy what you enjoy. I think through uni changed me a bit in terms of how I am, and like that was originally, I think before uni, I wouldn't have gone on camera and been like, yo, he said that. That wouldn't be me. I would have done that in front of my friends, but I wouldn't have done that on camera. So I think, it's definitely just the interaction and all the people that I've met, because I've met some great people through streaming, as well as just jumping into other communities and meeting them, and just kind of being able to relate with others. And other side of it, I didn't realize at first, to be fair, was something I'd say I did stream through the years, just very on and off. It was just, this is the first time consistently I've properly streamed. But I think it's just, I didn't realize how much I do enjoy just being able to play game, bust joke while I'm doing it, and just have a laugh. Because even stuff like the extra things I've added on with my channel points, where I've done a horror stream, I've done a hot noodle stream challenge before, and
you've been going ham with the different varieties. Well, look, I love to hear it. I'm super proud of you, man. You've done a lot, you've achieved a lot, and I'd love to see everything you're doing and continue seeing you bust up the industry. Before we go, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at mini_streams. You can also find me on twitch.tv/Mini Midas on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I am taking a little break at the moment because I just need to sort myself out. But I'm normally on there from about 5 p.m. GMT. And
and that's it. Now, I've been Mr. Midas. He's been Mini. You've been amazing. Thank you for listening to our episode of Too Many Games. Remember, if you're listening to us on a podcast service, make sure you give us a review and come over to the YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up. I've been Mr. Midas. He's been Mini, and we are out. Peace.